Welcome to class number 13. Medieval philosophy number 13. We're gonna talk about Saint Bonaventure. The important thing about Saint Bonaventure, first of all, is that he has 4 ways to explain God's existence, which are a posteriori. Okay, so he starts his way of reasoning in creatures, in creation, in the world we can see through our eyes, and he proceeds from there, moves forward, and he reaches God's existence. That's what a posteriori means. And here is the first way. The first way, he says, if there is an ens ab alio, there must be an ens non ab alio, which means ens ab alio means that something is because it is caused by someone else or by something else. So if there are beings which are caused by something else, at a certain point we must find somewhere a being which is not caused by anybody. So it is caused by itself. That's the ens non ab alio, which would be God. The second way is, he says, if there is an ens possible, then there is an ens necessarium. Okay, possible would mean contingent. There are beings which have received being from other beings. That means that their being is possible. It couldn't have happened, it could have not happened, but as a matter of fact, it happened because it's just a possible being. Yeah? So there must be an ens which is necessary. There must be a being which is necessary, which is God. That's the second way. The third way, he says, if there is in creation, and I can see in creation, ens in potentia, okay, there must be, he says, an ens in actu. Okay, ens in potentia is a being capable of potentiality, meaning that being is capable of getting something better. That being is going towards something better, okay, because it can still improve somehow. So that's potentiality, according to Aristotle, right? So if there are beings with potentiality, there must be a being in actu. Meaning there must be a being which is act, okay? No privation, no potentiality, because it has all the perfections. So that would be the third way. Then there is the fourth way. The fourth way here, if Saint Bonaventure says, if there is ens mutabile in creation, okay, ens mutabile means being which is changing, precisely because its potentiality, it's going after something better. It has received a being, but there is still room for improvement and for more perfection. So there are ens mutabile, beings which are changing. That's because there must be an ens which is immutable. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing Latin, English, Spanish, or what. So he says in Latin, if there is an ens mutabile, there must be an ens immutable. Okay? Mutabile, actually. So if there is a being which is changing, there must be an end which doesn't change at all because it has all the perfections, and this one would be God. So these are the four, the four ways, a posteriori ways in San Bonaventura to prove God's existence. And then he has as well an a priori argument. A priori means you accept, you take for granted that God exists, and from there you develop on God's existence. This is what he says. God exists. Why? First, because in all of us there is idea of perfection, and the idea doesn't come from nothing. It comes from the fact that God exists. Okay, all of us have the idea of God in our minds. Okay, this is something that we have seen before in St. Augustine and in other philosophers, right? For instance, St. Anselm of Canterbury also has a prior argument, etc. So, if it's in the mind of everybody, if everybody has in mind the idea of a God, it's because there must be a God, right? And all of us has the idea of perfection, etc. So there must be a God. But Saint Bonaventure goes ahead and says, takes a step forward and says, if we were to deny God's existence, we would give into a contradiction. Okay? So if you say that God doesn't exist, saying this equals, down here, equals contradiction. According to Saint Bonaventure. Why? Because according to him, the certainty, okay, the certainty that I can reach in my knowledge, in my way of reasoning, my knowledge, this certainty comes from God, okay, who is the light. Light for our soul to reach this certainty. Okay, so if I deny God, I give into this contradiction because God is the light for my soul to reach certainty. So when I reach certainty, my knowledge is because there is a God. I can be certain because not only my argument in my mind, but also that certainty comes, according to Saint Bonaventure, from God. God is that light which makes possible certainty when I am reasoning. So God has to exist. If I said that God doesn't exist, I would be giving into a contradiction because all my knowledge comes from him.